Hello, my name is Svetla Baeva, and I'm going to talk about how to create a communication strategy for your crowdfunding campaign. A successful crowdfunding campaign doesn't just depend on the crowdfunding platform for visibility. It also relies on an effective communications plan and its implementation by an active team. For this session, we will be going over the key elements of a strategy and plan. This includes goals, audience, key messages, resources and channels, communications activities during all the campaign phases, and of course, finally, monitoring and evaluation. To get started on your plan, make sure you know all the basics about your crowdfunding campaign first. This is going to determine your communication strategy and tactics. Start out by mapping the following elements with your team before you create a comms plan. Think about what your campaign concept is about, and is it campaignable? What is the problem that you're solving? And what is the solution that you're offering with your campaign project that you're fundraising for? What is your campaign timeline? Who is your audience? What is your fundraising goal? A communications plan for a campaign project that is looking to raise $1 million is going to be very different from a communications plan for a campaign project that is looking to raise $20,000. And finally, who will your partners be? Who are you looking to work with? These are some of the key elements to think about before starting to craft your communications plan. The first step in developing an effective crowdfunding communications plan is to identify and define your campaign's goal. Knowing your goal will help focus your outreach efforts around the most important aspects of the message. It will also help to ensure that you're targeting the right donor audience with the right message, whether those are individual givers or larger partners. Your communication plan should align with the goals of your campaign, whether it be to raise funds, generate awareness, or garner support for a cause. Creating an effective communication plan for crowdfunding is essential to your success. Your communication plan should have several key components, which are outlined here on the screen. For your plan, you should do the following. Define the goals and objectives of your communications and campaign. Define and map your audience. Identify the key communications channels that you'll be using for your campaign. Craft the key messages for your audience, and based on those, create a social media and content strategy. Plan your media outreach and your promotions. This means that you might also have paid media or social media ads throughout the campaign. Plan your activities. You may decide to also include offline events and various online activations to keep people interested in your campaign along the campaign cycle. And finally, evaluation. Make sure to implement feedback to optimize your campaign as you go along. Additionally, you should also set tasks and define roles and responsibilities for each task. Set a timeline for your campaign launch and end, and deadlines for each specific action step. This will ensure that you and your team will be able to effectively prepare and plan your campaign. Once you've identified your goal for your crowdfunding project, it's time to start thinking about who will help make it happen. You'll need to take a look at your audience to begin crafting communications materials and visual assets that will appeal to your prospective backers. To do this, you'll want to consider the following. The first thing is to identify your audience. Think of the types of people who would be interested in backing your project and what motivates them. Your donors can come from various backgrounds and contexts, so take the time to consider who you want to attract. You may have different audiences that you will want to connect with. Thinking about all this will help ensure that you're reaching the right people with the right message. Once you've identified your target audience, you'll want to start gathering information in order to better understand who they are and what they need. For example, your audience may consist of young adults with middle income that are between the ages of 25 to 35 or 35 to 45. Start thinking about their demographics, where they're located. Are they in larger cities? This may be useful for targeting ads later. What are their interests? What languages do they speak? What social media platforms do they use? What media do they read? Where do they get their information? What information do they need to make a decision? Gathering this data can help you build an effective communications plan to reach your target audience and ensure the success of your crowdfunding project. In addition to your main donor target audience, map key supporters and influencers to reach out to in order to amplify your campaign once you have launched. These can be celebrities or bloggers, vloggers, or are there individuals well positioned in your community and have a prominent platform through which you can spread the word? Once you've figured out who you need to tell about your project, it's time to start thinking about how you're going to reach them. Lining up a solid promotion plan and key messages before you launch ensures that you'll be spreading the word with a consistent voice to the right people at the right time. What key messages are going to resonate with your audience? If you have more than one audience, you might end up with different key messages for each audience. Explain what you want them to do and why they should do it, or why they should even care. Here are some tips for crafting your messaging. Start off by explaining your project's overarching themes and who you are. With your project's themes in mind, have a look at your website and social media channels to see how you talk about your work. Is there anything that you want to change that resonates better? What kind of messaging are you using? Is it engaging enough? To get inspiration, also look at projects and campaigns similar to yours and read news stories that have covered them. Take note of what words or messaging they use. Can you use it in your campaign? Also, don't underestimate the importance of explaining why and how your project will make a difference in people's lives. People want to feel like they're part of something bigger, that they're making a change. So put your community and audience at the center of what you're doing. And finally, if you are having trouble with your messaging and you want to see how it resonates with your audience, consult with friends and see what they say, especially people who work outside your field. Once you've determined the major elements of the crowdfunding campaign, it's time to take stock of what communications tools are available and what you may need to add to achieve your goals. Start out by listing your communications resources as you craft your plan. Think about the people that you have at your disposal. Think about the content you already have as an organization. Think about the different channels that you already use or wish to use. This should all help you easily see where the gaps are and what you need support with before you move forward with your campaign plan. For example, do you have a budget for creating the campaign? Do you already have engaging content that you can partially use or reuse? Or do you need to create it from scratch? Do you have an in-house designer that will help you with creating an engaging campaign design? And do you have communications capacity, or do you need to hire a PR advertising firm? And who's going to be handling your social media communications? Do you also have partners or celebrities that you can engage with? These are some of the questions you should be asking yourself at this point. At this stage in the planning process, it is important to think about how you're going to reach out to your desired crowd and get them interested in your campaign. The best way to do this is to make use of a variety of channels and create engaging content to capture the attention of your audience. The content that you create should speak to the values, concerns, and priorities of your target audience. There are a variety of channels to use depending on your campaign goals and audience, of course. Some of the most effective channels to consider include your website and campaign landing page if that's different, social media channels like Instagram, X, or Facebook, email marketing, word of mouth, or any kind of physical settings, advertising, whether that's online or in print, and of course, media and PR. It is important to remember that not all channels will be suitable for every campaign. Therefore, it's important to plan which channels to use for each campaign and tweak your message for each channel. Your message should also be tailored to your audience. If your audience is tech-savvy, digital, for example, consider using graphics and infographics or a video or a live stream. If your audience is more traditional, however, then using a direct mail campaign or offline events or physical settings may be a better option. The key is to make sure that the content you create is tailored to the specific needs of your audience. It is also important to remember that the content should be clear, concise, and easy to understand. Additionally, it should be creative and provide added value to your audience. Consider adding a personal touch to your campaign to better engage your audience and create that emotional connection that you're looking for. This can be done through stories, photos, or engaging various stakeholders such as influencers or celebrities. No matter the content you choose, make sure it is engaging and memorable so that you can make it exciting for your supporters to take part in your campaign. The next step in your campaign is to prepare for each campaign phase. A crowdfunding campaign has 5 phases, and each phase has its own rules. The pre-campaign phase is probably going to be the longest one because you will need to prepare everything, or at least most of things, before launching the crowdfunding campaign. Take your time during this period and don't rush. This is the time in which you will prepare your comms plan. Prepare your messaging, prepare your content social media strategy. It means also creating engaging content such as videos and photo stories and other kinds of design materials. You will also be preparing your landing campaign page. Make it engaging and avoid jargon to make it as accessible and understandable as possible. You will use the preparation phase also to map your partners, supporters, celebrities, local heroes, basically anyone that can trigger more support with their pledge. You can reach out to them for support in advance and plan how to collaborate. This will help ensure that you will reach the 30% funding goal in the first few days, week of your campaign launch, which is essential. Preparing a mailing list of initial supporters, that's another step. People you work with, allies, even friends and family will go into your mailing list. This is the phase you'll also work on drafting press releases and preparing media lists and pitch emails that explain your campaign in just 2-3 paragraphs. And finally, it's very important to address risks at this early stage, especially if something goes wrong. Prepare for unforeseen challenges and have a plan in place to address them, whether it's a slowdown in contributions or technical issues with the crowdfunding platform. The next phase is a short but important one, the campaign launch. Time your campaign well. You don't want to have prepared for so long only so that you launch on an unsuitable day. You can use, for example, meaningful dates, for example, like international days. But consider seasonality, holidays, and low traffic periods in your target locations, especially if you think that will impact your outreach negatively. When you press the launch button, you need to share news across all your channels. The first days are going to be crucial. So blast the campaign across all your channels, including social media, organize those offline events that you've planned, email your mailing lists, activate all your partners and influencers to share the news, send out that press release to the media, and start doing those interviews with the media, which usually bring up donations. This is a time where you probably also launch your ads online or in print. And during the launch period, and during any point in your campaign, actually, respond promptly to any comments or questions and feedback from supporters, whether that's via email or social media or comments in YouTube. It's important to do this because you're building a sense of community around your campaign, and this all can boost its success. During the campaign. So what happens after the campaign launch? Once the initial excitement passes during the first 2 weeks, you'll need to make sure you keep your audience engaged. This is absolutely crucial. The next phase is what happens during the campaign. So what does happen after the campaign launch? Once the initial excitement passes during the first 2 weeks, you will need to make sure you keep your audience engaged. This is absolutely crucial, and most campaigns actually fail here. Some of the things that you can do is, of course, begin to implement your content and social media strategy, like publishing posts and blogs. Make sure you maintain a consistent posting frequency. You can share relevant news about your campaign and milestones. You can share engaging content and stories you've prepared. You can start thinking about the different activities that you've planned during your campaign. It can be an offline event or another online activation. Engage your partners or celebrities or influencers or community leaders further to increase campaign visibility. This is also the time to begin to adjust your ads online and see what's working and what's not. Remember that it's also important to show appreciation to your donors. Recognize their support through thank you messages. And remember to monitor the performance of your campaign and be open to making adjustments if necessary. You can do this through analyzing data to see what strategies are working and which need refinement. The final phase is the end of the campaign. So when your campaign is coming to an end, you need to establish a sense of urgency. Tell your audience and potential donors that there is less than a week, 24 hours left to donate. Use various tactics to get people excited. If you've managed to secure additional partners or funding, announce match funding for every $1 donated. And remember to increase posting frequency during this last phase. Following the end of the campaign, your communications doesn't end. Thank your donors and keep them informed about the results impact of your project, including once it is implemented. Bring them on the journey of implementation. In the final step of developing an effective crowdfunding communications plan, it's important to remember to carefully monitor and evaluate the campaign results during the campaign. Monitoring the campaign will help make any necessary adjustments. There are 2 key areas to focus on when it comes to monitoring and evaluation. The first is to check content performance. As part of a communications plan, there will likely be content published to engage with the intended audience. This could be blog posts, images, and videos, or other engaging content on both the crowdfunding site and other channels such as social media. It's important to measure the performance of the content in order to measure the effectiveness of the plan. There are a few key metrics that can be used to measure the performance, such as page views, comments and shares, and click-through rate. The other really vital component is monitoring engagement. It's also important to measure how people are engaging with the crowdfunding project itself. Examples of such metrics to monitor include the number of pledges. This can help measure the success of promotional outreach and content. Average pledge amount. This can indicate how generous people are being with donations. And finally, referral tracking. This can measure how successful promotion of the project was via referrals, for example, from other sites. By understanding what's working and what's not, you can make changes to the plan as needed in order to have the most successful crowdfunding project. Finally, we have prepared a series of resources that you can use to easily get you started. On SparkBlue, you will find the following templates you can directly download. These include a template for a communication strategy, a template and an example of a press release, tips for how to pitch to the media, and a template for a quick marketing plan that will help you get started. Thank you, everyone, and see you in the next session.